We are accelerating dramatically our ongoing negotiations with India. We had very successful meetings just last week. Indonesia, where I had the important VTC yesterday. Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia.
So stand together, and now we are negotiating, and I think that will be fine too.
Europe also seems keen to show it's open for business elsewhere. But that won't solve Europe's problem now, though the highest blanket US levies are yet to kick.
Picture this. The EU and the US were besties once, trading goodies and having each other's backs. But now, it's like someone found out who ate the last slice of cake, and a $2 trillion trade war broke out. What sparked this global falling out? And why is Canada suddenly the EU's new BFF? Let's dive into the drama. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
After Britain now managed to strike a compromise with Washington, the pressure for the EU to deliver is mounting. But with Europe's much bigger market at stake for the US, EU trade ministers are working on a deal to avert future US tariffs. The US announced duties of 20% on the EU back in April before pausing them for 90 days. Brussels is also weighing up whether to play nice or fight back.
This is what the world's biggest trade relationship looks like. Billions of dollars in goods and services cross the Atlantic between the European Union and the United States each day.
Imagine if your best friend suddenly slapped a 25% friendship tax on your coffee runs. That's pretty much what happened when the US threw tariffs at everyone, starting with steel and aluminum. Dubbed grumpy cat fees by folks tired of these policies, these tariffs hit the EU hard. For decades, Europe and the US shared a buddy-buddy trade relationship, but then came a shift that felt more like a breakup than a squabble. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, the US flirted with tariffs on cars. Total chaos for German automakers, who practically send carloads of BMWs and Volkswagens across the Atlantic. The EU wasn't going to sit back and mope. They snapped right back, adding their own layer of grumpiness with retaliatory tariffs on American goods. We're talking bourbon, motorcycles, and even orange juice. Basically telling America, if you're going to mess with our metal, we're going to make your breakfast more expensive.
US view of Europe still seems far from friendly.
Just like the European Union is in many ways nastier than China, okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot.
But it's not business as usual. Washington plans to hike tariffs on most EU goods to 20% come July. And despite EU efforts to strike a deal and avoid the rise, Brussels is trying a two-pronged approach to get Trump on side. Offer to slash duties on imports like cars and industrial goods, and warn that retaliation will come if negotiations fail.
Then came the $43.2 billion smackdown. No, not a lawsuit. A full-on threat to target Boeing. Imagine canceling a wedding planner days before the big event. That's how serious the EU was about fighting fire with fire. The fallout was massive. American farmers, who relied heavily on European buyers for soybeans, wine, and other goods, suddenly faced shrinking markets. Prices for everything from machinery to cars started climbing, squeezing consumers already struggling with rising costs. German car executives, likely pacing in some fancy offices, warned that tariffs could cut into their US sales. Big time. And then you've got the estimated $2 trillion hit to the US economy, with slashed exports, fewer investments, and a domino effect in industries tied to global trade. It's like paying extra for guacamole, but on a national scale. And no amount of chips makes it worth it.
Plus export restrictions on some chemicals and scrap steel. Last week, the EU threatened around $100 billion worth of counter-tariffs on a raft of American products from Boeing aircraft to bourbon whiskey.
First of all, we stand together. I mean, we're 27 countries, and it's very important that we stand together because our market is bigger than the US market. We are many consumers here on this side.
But here's the kicker. The EU didn't just retaliate. While America played hardball, Europe quietly started packing its bags. The first stop? Canada. Teamed up with CETA, they've decided life outside the US might not be so bad. Canada's new trading buddy could be the start of a global glow-up for the EU. Picture the EU and Canada sipping maple syrup lattes, laughing off the drama like two friends trash-talking a messy ex. That's kind of the vibe lately. Thanks to CETA, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. Since its provisional launch in 2017, this deal has let the EU and Canada trade billions of dollars in goods without the tariff battles that are turning the US-EU relationship into a reality TV feud. While the US piles on taxes and rules, CETA acts more like a VIP pass, cutting out nearly all tariffs and making trade between the two smoother than Canadian whiskey. The timing of this partnership feels less like a coincidence and more like a clapback. It's no secret this bromance stems from the EU looking for new friends after clashes with their old one. Imagine the US storming out in a huff, and Canada sliding in with a polite smile, ready to make things better. That's how the EU has described Canada, a country that's stable, friendly, and always shows up on time. The political equivalent of borrowing your truck to help someone move. But what makes this relationship special isn't just shared politeness, it's the economics. CETA isn't like those deals filled with loopholes. It's practically a model of efficiency. Ag trade? Booming. Aviation sector? Getting a boost. European car makers can now ship to Canada faster and cheaper, while Canadian beef producers suddenly have hungry new customers overseas. It's no wonder trade volumes hit $100 billion annually since the deal's inception, largely unbothered by the trade tantrums happening elsewhere. Meanwhile, the US is left outside, looking in, wondering where it all went wrong. And the EU? They're not stopping with Canada. They're eyeing bigger moves, making friends across Asia and Africa to spread their influence and lower their reliance on the US even further. Is this a rebound phase or the first chapter of a permanent shift? Either way, Canada and the EU aren't waiting around to find out. The EU's $2 trillion pivot isn't just about dodging tariffs, it's a bold move to redefine its global role. Think of it as Europe telling the world, we're not just here to tag along. With alliances shifting fast, the EU is balancing between partnership, competition, and leadership. Meanwhile, the US risks losing $2 trillion, all thanks to these trade spats. The question is, can the US adapt, or will its protectionist streak leave it sitting out in the economic wilderness? Maybe this is America's wake-up call, or just the first chapter in a world where European maple syrup diplomacy wins.